Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the sewing version of this tutorial. In case you've not seen the pattern drafting tutorial, I'm going to leave the link in the comment section, so go ahead and watch it before you come join us on this particular one. It's going to help you understand better. So after drafting out my pattern, I went ahead to place my pattern on my fabric, and I went ahead to cut out what I have on the pattern, but I added half an inch allowance all the way around the pattern paper, as you can see. So for the center front, I added half an inch on the neckline area and on the bustier area. I didn't add anything to the base because I added 1 inch while I was drafting. Okay, my half length was supposed to be 16 inches, but I made it 17 inches, so I already have my joining allowance on the waist area. That is why I didn't add anything there. And for the yoke, I also did not add anything on the base because I didn't want it to gape. I noticed that whenever I cut out a queen neckline and I add half an inch to the base, it's always gaping, so I decided not to add anything. But on the neckline area, I added my half an inch allowance. So guys, for the back, I didn't want the back to be as open as it is on the pattern paper, so I decided to reduce it. Okay, so this is how I want the back to be. Okay, the opening, I don't want it to be too much, so I went ahead to just open it up a little bit. And for the base, I didn't add anything because I already have my joining allowance on the base. I just added half an inch to the neckline area, the shoulder area. The skirt part, guys, I went ahead to cut out both the front and the back skirt part. As you can see, the back is wider than the front with 1.5 inches. I added allowance, half an inch allowance to the waist area and half an inch allowance to this V shape, as you can see. I also went ahead to use my fabric to cut on my lining. Okay, so we're going to start with the center front. As you can see, the center front is on fold. Okay, so don't forget to fold your fabric before cutting out the center front. I'll go ahead and remove my pins. So I have my fabric and I have my lining piece. Okay, so I have 2 pieces for the center front. Moving on to the side front, I have 4 pieces. Okay, 2 lining piece and 2 of my main fabric. Okay, so the side front is not on fold, so I'm going to go ahead and remove my pins. Okay, and I'll open it up for you guys to see. So I have 2 pieces for the main fabric and 2 pieces for the lining, and I'm going to place them side by side with the center front, as you can see me doing. Okay, so I'm going to drop my lining piece and I'm going to place my fabric like this. So this is how we are going to stitch the center front and the 2 side fronts. Okay, so the next thing is the yoke. Okay, so for the yoke, like I said, I didn't add anything to the base. Okay, because I didn't want it to gape. I just added my half an inch to the neckline area and the shoulder area. Okay, so I have 4 pieces, 2 main piece and 2 lining piece, as you can see. So I'm going to place my lining on the right side of the main piece. I'm going to pin all the way around. After doing that, I'll sew on the neckline and on the armhole area. Remember, this is a sleeveless dress, so you're going to close the armhole area because you are not attaching any sleeves to the dress. Okay, so just sew the armhole area. You can just close everything up and turn it inside out through the base. Okay, so I went ahead to cut out my wording because I want to pad this dress. Because I'm using an Ankara fabric, I just want to pad it. So this is optional, especially if you're not using an Ankara fabric, but I just decided to pad mine because I'm using an Ankara fabric. Okay, so what I will do is to just place my wording on my fabric like this. Okay, the shiny part of the wording is where I'm placing on the wrong side of my fabric. I'll go ahead and iron it down. Okay, after ironing, I'll stitch. Okay, make sure you leave about half an inch on the neckline area, just so it's easier for you to turn your lining with your main fabric. Okay guys, this is my back piece. I also have 4 pieces, 2 main piece and 2 lining piece. I'm going to open them up. I'll place the lining on the right side of the fabric. I'll pin all the way around. after doing that, I'll go ahead and sew. So I'm going to sew everywhere, okay? Sew the back, the zipper area, the side, the armhole area because it's a sleeveless dress. You can also sew the shoulders if you want. After sewing, go ahead and notch, okay, and then iron so everything stays flat, and then turn everything inside out through the base. And if you are taking your darts, go ahead and also take your darts after sewing your lining in place. So guys, for this side of the back, I'm going to just place loop here because I'll be fixing button to the back of the dress. So what I'll do is to just fold my fabric and sew, and then I'll place it there and sew all the way. Okay, so for the skirt, I'm going to also remove my pattern paper, and as you can see, my front skirt part is on fold. Okay, so we are going to cut the front on fold, and this is my lining piece. I'm going to place the lining on the right side of the fabric. I'll sew the waist area, I'll sew the side, okay, I'll turn it inside out through the base, and then I'm going to take in my darts. Okay, if you are taking your darts, go ahead and take in your darts. I'm going to repeat the same process for the other side of the skirt. Okay, so the back is not on fold because we'll be fixing our zipper to the back. So what I'll do is to place my lining piece on the main fabric, okay, and I'll go ahead and sew the waist area, I'll sew the zipper area, and I'll sew the side. After doing that, I'll turn inside out, I'll iron flat, and then I'll take my dart for the back. So guys, I've gone ahead to stitch my bustier in place. After ironing the wadding, I went ahead to just sew, okay, using my 1/2 inch allowance. And after sewing, guys, this is what I have. If you have a stay, go ahead and iron your stay to your fabric, okay. That's after ironing the wadding on the fabric, iron stay on it. I didn't have stay, so I decided to just use my wadding. Okay, I went ahead to also sew my lining piece the same way that I sewed my main fabric using the 1/2 inch allowance that I left. Okay guys, after sewing my yoke, this is what I have. As you can see, I closed everywhere except the base and the neckline area. Okay, so remember we notched where we are supposed to place our yoke, but we are going to leave a little bit of allowance on the armhole area, okay, of the main fabric, just so you are able to turn your lining. Okay, so what I'll do is to pin the yoke like this. As you can see, I left allowance on the side because I'll be turning my lining using the allowance. After doing that, I'm going to place my lining piece on the right side of my fabric. I'll pin all the way around. After pinning, I'm going to sew everywhere, okay, except the base. After sewing, go ahead and notch the neckline, okay, and use your hemming gum to just hold it down, just so the lining does not pop out on the right side. Okay, I've gone ahead to sew my yoke in place and my lining in place, and this is what I have. You guys can see what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to work on the skirt part. Like I said, I took my darts, I sewed the lining piece in place, and I ironed flat. So this is what I have. Okay, this is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the skirt part and the upper bodice together using 1/2 inch allowance. Okay, so I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides. I'll pin all the way around, and I'll go ahead and sew. So I'm done sewing, guys, and this is what I have for the front. You can see what it looks like on the inside. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the back to the skirt part also. So I've gone ahead to sew all the way around, and you can see the loop that I did for the back. I did 2. You can do 1 depending on what you want. Okay, so I'll fix my button to the other end. Okay, so this is what I have. I didn't take in my darts for the back because I did not take any darts allowance on the upper bodies, but on the lower bodies I took in my dart and I sewed my lining piece in place. Okay, so I went ahead to join on the waist area using 1/2 inch. As you can see, this is what it looks like on the inside. So the next thing I'll do is to close my zipper allowance. First of all, I'm not fixing my zipper now. I'll just fold my fabric on each other, and I'm going to just stitch my zipper allowance using my gather stitch, okay, because I will loosen it again. So after doing that, guys, next thing I'll do is to join the front and the back piece together. To do that, I'll first of all go ahead and pin the shoulders together, making sure they are aligned, and then I'll sew. After sewing the shoulders, I'll use my stitching allowance to sew on the two sides. Okay, so just go ahead and shape your dress using your stitching allowance. After shaping my dress, guys, this is what I have. I went ahead to just iron it on the right side so everything stays flat, and you can see what it looks like. So next thing I'm going to do is to open up the zipper allowance. Remember I said I'll be using my gather stitch to stitch the zipper allowance, so it's easy for me to just open it up. So after opening it up, this is what I have. So to cut out the ruffle on the base, what I'll do is to place my tape and I'll measure around this opening. Okay, so just look at the way I'm going to place my tape from this end to the other end. So make sure you measure it accurately. Okay, so I'm going to measure all the way around. Okay, after measuring, guys, what I had was about 59 inches. So what you do is to times this, whatever you have, you can times it by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5, depending on how full you want your ruffles to be. For me, I times this 59 inches by 2 because I'm using 3 yards of Ankara fabric. Okay, so I went ahead to cut it out. Now you're going to determine how long you want your dress to be. Already my half length is 16 inches and I added about 4 inches for the skirt part on the side, 4 inches or 4.5 inches. Okay, so I'll be using these ruffles to complete my dress. I have 19.5 inches here, but I reduced it after sewing by 4 inches. Okay, so determine how long you want your dress to be. Okay, so because my back's area was too long, remember I went down by about 5.5 inches for the Basque area, so my dress became long. So what I did was to reduce this 19.5 inches ruffles by 4 inches. Okay, so what you're going to do is to either gather or pleat all the way around. Okay, so I went ahead to just gather mine, and this is what it looks like, guys. After doing that, I went ahead to just close the back. Okay, and I hemmed the base after reducing the 4 inches like I mentioned earlier. The next thing I'll do is to fix my zipper in place, and then I'm going to fix button to this side. Okay, after doing that, guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section.